1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you see me? All right. Okay. Wow. Okay. Looks like we are live. Okay. Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? Hopefully, you can see me and hear me. If you can, please drop me a comment. Let me know. This is what day is it today? All the days are blending together into a kind of coronavirus soup of time, and it's the 22nd of April. Beautiful day here in Cheshire. Hope you're all doing okay. We've got B and A is here already. And good to see you. And Kevin is here. I'm going to do a live Q&A here, as you can see. Loud and clear, says PNG. Wonderful. Okay, so it looks like we are working. I'll just make myself a bit bigger there so you can see me. Don't be alarmed about the scratch on my nose. I have a 2-year-old son who attacked me the other day with a plastic funnel, but I'm doing okay. Perfectly healthy and nothing to worry about. Fighting Words Designs, Kathleen is here. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for joining me here today. Kevin says he's a big fan and glad to be here in the live Q&A. Thank you, Kevin. It's good to have you here. We're going to take questions, live questions. I have a couple of questions lined up if we run out of questions from people who have emailed them in and stuff like that. So ask away. Feel free to ask me anything. I will do my best to answer questions about print on demand, about t-shirt design, about all those kind of things about the t-shirt business. Anything I can help you with, I'll do my best to help you. So I'll just give it a couple of seconds for people to all join in here, and then we'll take some questions and get going. All right, so we got one here already from Marcia, who says, please give quick overview of Zapier, Cloudinary, etc. process. Need refresher and checking if you updated it since first master plan class. Okay, so Marcia is asking about artwork automation, which is a class I teach about how to create mock-ups and resize your artwork en masse in bulk. So if you have thousands of designs, artwork automation is a process to walk you through all that. I'm afraid I won't be able to dive into that in this Q&A, Marcia. The topic is too broad, but if you have access to artwork automation, it sounds like you do, then last year I updated the class so you can go in there and you can follow the processes step by step. Just walk through the videos and you'll be able to see exactly the process there. You'll be able to refresh right there. Okay, B&A says, hello Michael, where do you get the fonts you use for design work? Do you design your own fonts for use? I do not design my own fonts, but I get fonts all over the place. So fontsquirrel.com is a good one for free commercial fonts. I do buy fonts if I find fonts that I like, especially, and that I feel are appropriate for a particular design or something like that. But yeah, generally most of the fonts I use would be free, or they would be free for commercial use. And obviously you can find them across various websites, and fontsquirrel.com is FONT squirrel.com is where I tend to go to find nice fonts. I usually just search by like new and see if anything jumps out, and then I just add them to my collection. And as I'm designing, I'll just drop down through my font list and try different ones and see whichever works for certain designs. So I hope that helps you, B&A. Okay, maps are cool. One very accurate name. Maps are cool. Is it worth to start and pay for your own WordPress site just to try to funnel traffic to your POD shops like Redbubble? That is a very good question. Maps are cool. So I think it's still a very under appreciated strategy, if you like, I suppose, which is setting up a simple site. Doesn't have to be WordPress, but setting up your own domain, your own website, which you then send traffic, or you link from that website to your POD stores. It's something I've done for several years. I think it's been quite attributable, or I can attribute some of my success to that because it's been able to drive traffic. I was able to track, how many sales were coming from that channel, and it was not insignificant. I think it is a long-term kind of play. So with anything search engine related, SEO and stuff like that, what happens is it takes a while for things to get ranked, for things to get indexed by Google. And so if you're looking for something that's going to quickly give you a boost, then that's probably not going to be it. But I think it's a very good strategy, especially if you're building out a long-term plan, a long-term business, and you're going to have this website there, which over time should build authority. It should become more established within Google, and therefore, as you link out to your latest designs from there, it should increasingly be an asset to you as you create more designs. So I do think it's a really good idea. I just think it's not something that results in a quick turnaround. It's something that you have to kind of invest in and take some time on. There's two kind of main ways you can look at it. You can do it as a kind of brand or a individual, of course. Like I'm an artist. This is my artist website. This is my portfolio website, if you like. And here's where you can buy my t-shirts. So you can position it that way. Obviously, same whether you're a brand or a designer, it's the same principle. I'm brand X, and here's my designs. You can buy them from Redbubble, the other approach, which is kind of how I started and eventually morphed into the other way, was a blog about a particular subject, and I did like roundup articles. I did like 30 best X t-shirts, or 30 best something designs, or funniest X designs. And I linked to not just my designs but other designs as well, and it was an affiliate site. So I just mentioned that because I think some people think, oh, what is this website supposed to be? Is it supposed to be a portfolio site? It could be that, and that's kind of what my sites are like now. But it could also be, you could do something around a particular topic. You could do a kind of blog, or a whatever it is, a kind of niche site, and then you could link through to your designs from there. So hope that helps. Just a few ideas around that, but I do think it's a good idea. I think it helps send traffic, but it also, which is quite significant, it can boost your rankings in Google, because every time you link from your website to your design on Redbubble, that's an indication to Google that this Redbubble listing is useful, or is relevant for those terms. So by doing that, even without necessarily having much traffic around it, you're sending Google a signal, and Google will then rank that Redbubble result higher in the rankings. And of course, what you're basically doing is you're just kind of lifting your rankings across the board. You're just kind of increasing your chances of being seen by doing stuff like that. So hope that helps you. Maps are cool. I do recommend it, and something I think, especially if you're building for the long term, that you should try out. Chris Lucky, how do you use Pinterest to push your sales? I do not use Pinterest. Nothing against it. It's just not anything I've used. I've dabbled in it, but it's not something I use now, and it's not something I've used for a long time. So I think there are people out there who do, and they'll be able to help you, but I'm not really a Pinterest kind of guy. Michael Webster. Hi, Michael. Love your work. Thank you, Michael. Your Redbubble guide changed my life. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. That's not a question, but I'll keep it on the screen just to flatter myself. And if you want to find the Redbubble guide that Michael's talking about, it's on my website, michaelessick.com, and you can follow the link for how to sell on Redbubble. I think if in fact, if you Google how to sell on Redbubble, it's like one of the top posts there as well. So thank you for that, Michael. Fiznik, have you tried selling on display? Yes, but very, very small try. I've tried very, very little to sell on display. I just threw a couple of designs up there, and I haven't given it any attention like I should have. I would always recommend, if you're going to try something out, this is advice to myself as well, don't just throw a couple of designs up. Throw as many designs up as you physically can and stretch yourself. So, for example, I think if you have 100 designs, that's a good ballpark to throw at websites, because then the more you throw at it, the more you'll be able to judge, okay, this is working or it isn't. If you only throw up a couple of designs, you've got next to no chance of knowing if it would ever be successful for you, because you only tried a couple of designs. Whereas if you try 100 designs, you've got much more chance of hitting something, and then your data is going to be much more accurate, so you can figure out, okay, yeah, this is actually a really good site for me, or this is working, or some things are working, and you can then start diving in. But no, to answer your question, honestly, I have not really dived into Displate. I do think it looks interesting and exciting, and there's a couple of opportunities on there, as it's such a low traffic site and it's not really huge competition on there at the moment. So it's quite open. So it's quite easy to get things up. It's not as policed as like Merch by Amazon. So I think it's worth having a look at, having a play around with. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. B and A, can a self-trained, just starting out graphic designer use Inkscape effectively for t-shirt designing? Do you recommend any good freeware or low-cost software for designing? I haven't used Inkscape, B and A, but I have used Affinity's. Can't remember what the vector program's called. Is it Designer or something, or is that the Photoshop equivalent? Anyway, Affinity. Let's see if I can just find it here quickly for you. If you go to affinity.serif.com, you will find, so it's called Designer, I think. Designer is their vector software. And right now, these are all 50% off, and I think you can get 3 months free, if I'm not mistaken. So right now, you can get like 3 months free of this software, and once you pay for it, that's it for life. It's not a subscription-based thing like Photoshop or anything like that. Personally, I use Photoshop and have used Illustrator, but I'm trying to cut the cord. It's just hard because I'm so addicted to I'm so used to using Photoshop and Illustrator for designing. It's part and package of what I'm used to, but I would recommend Affinity, Photo, and Designer. Photo is the Photoshop equivalent. Designer is the Illustrator equivalent. I have used them. Excuse me. I have used them a little bit, and I think they're both good pieces of software and worth trying out, and very, very reasonable priced. JL says hi to you, JL. Mayank. Let me flick this back over here. There is the prediction that in the new economy, people will stay home, and since t-shirts are mostly worn outside to express or get some attention, do you think that people might buy less of them because of this reason? That's an interesting question. In this new economy, people will stay at home. I don't think people will stay at home for much longer. I don't want to get into, coronavirus predictions and stuff like that. I don't have any idea, but I don't think the lockdown can last forever. I certainly don't think it can last for more than a few more months, I would say. So I do think people will be going outside. So I do think people will wear t-shirts and still buy t-shirts. People still buy stuff like t-shirts, even if they're not going out. I don't think that. It's certainly true that people do buy t-shirts for that purpose, but people also buy t-shirts simply because they like the t-shirt. They're trying to support a band or a group or a podcast or whatever, or show some affinity to something. People who stay at home also do things like live stream, or they might be live chatting with their friends or something. So they might, want to wear a t-shirt that expresses themselves in that way. So basically, long and short of it is, I don't think that we are going to see a massive reduction in people buying t-shirts. I think it would take something really drastic to stop people from purchasing t-shirts, like most of the world's arms fell off or something like that. That's what it would take, I think. I just think t-shirts in general are such a ubiquitous, universal product that there'll always be people buying t-shirts. Now, where they buy them, what kinds of designs they buy, how much they pay for them, all those things are subject to change, but I don't think that people will stop buying them. So Hope that answers that question for you, Mike. Thaddeus, hey, Michael, if you have a good idea, a trending, brilliant one, where do you upload your design first? That's a great question, Thaddeus. This happened to me yesterday. I had an idea that I saw something, it gave me an idea, I created a design, I put it first on TeePublic. And I would put it on TeePublic and I put it on Redbubble at the same time, actually. But those would be my two go-to platforms because yesterday I uploaded that design to TeePublic and Redbubble. Today I Googled the term. It was based around a phrase. So I Googled the phrase shirt. So I Googled, what the phrase was, the saying was, and followed by the word shirt. And already my design was front page, like number 4. The TeePublic listing was number 4 and 5. It was repeated. Like one was a sticker, one was a shirt or something. And the Redbubble design was already showing up in the Google shopping stuff at the top. So I say all that to illustrate the point that TeePublic and Redbubble are very effective vehicles, channels, if you like, for getting a design to the top of Google very quickly, especially, or perhaps only, if it's a low competition, new kind of trend or phrase that there's not a lot of competition around there for. Because of course, if you're the 500th person to do that design, then there's 499 people before you who have already done it on TeePublic and Redbubble and stuff. But for new stuff and new trending stuff, I think that would be the absolute best place to go. I'd even put them above like Merch by Amazon, because I think while you will get your listing, you get Amazon traffic to your listing, Amazon doesn't seem, in my experience, to rank as quickly on Google. Now, when it does rank, it will probably rank higher, but it doesn't seem to rank as quickly, if that makes sense. So if your object is to get this new design in front of people who are searching for it on Google right away, then TeePublic and Redbubble would be my two number one options to go for. Hope that helps you, Thaddeus. Danielle, I'm interested in learning more about licensing art. How do you find businesses who want to license your artwork? Very good question, Danielle. A couple of thoughts on that. Excuse me, let me have a little drink here. How I have found them is principally through trade shows. So there are a number of trade shows, licensing trade shows. The one in Las Vegas is called the Licensing Expo. There's one in London every year, which is called Brand Licensing Europe. And these trade shows are free to attend, so you can go and walk around them. And if you're interested, you can talk to people there and stuff and kind of get, feedback and stuff. So that's one place, is trade shows. You can go and talk to people at trade shows. Specifically licensing trade shows, but also you can go and talk to people at any kind of mass product trade show, if that makes sense. So, for example, there's a big trade show in Birmingham every year here in the UK called Spring Fair. It happens twice a year, I think. Excuse me, I went to walk that show last year, and it's a massive show, but basically it's just manufacturers of all types, so everything from stationery to homeware to everything. Now, people are there typically to sell their stuff, but if it's a slow day or you can catch someone's eye, you might be able to go and pitch your ideas or pitch your designs to particular manufacturers. Now, the other thing I would say, it kind of feeds back into those two, is that you should do your research first and really find what would be the ideal business for my designs. Take some time over that, do some research, do some digging, find out, if nothing comes first to mind, then you need to do some Googling around the kind of products you think that your artwork would work best on. And you need to think about which manufacturers what their distribution channels are, how they're stocking their stuff. For example, one thing I like to do when I'm in a store or when I see a design that I like, maybe on a greetings card or anything, I'll pick it up, turn it over, look at the details on the back, sometimes take a photo, and then when I get home, I'll Google them and look into the companies and see if these are people I can pitch for my designs or something like that. So hope those tips help. Those are all ways that you can find manufacturers and licensors that you can do offline licensing with. Zahed says, "Hey Michael, thanks for doing this Q&A. I have two questions if you don't mind. Number one, what would be your approach to search for low competition keywords on Redbubble? And two, what do you think of ugly designs on Redbubble? I'm wondering what is your experience and knowledge on this." Um, what would be your approach to search for low competition keywords on Redbubble? I don't really have a different approach for different levels of competition on Redbubble. I simply have the same approach for everything on Redbubble, and my approach is to try to maximize your chances of being seen by people who are looking for the kind of thing you've designed by including relevant, appropriate keywords in your title, in your description, and in your tags. And if you want to give your stuff a boost, you could try linking from your own website or something like that. But apart from that, there's not really much else that really factors into search on Redbubble. You don't have a billion different levers and tools you can pull and press. What you have are your design, you have your title, your description, your tags, and then you have anything else you can externally do to drive traffic. But as far as Redbubble's concerned, it's not like Amazon where maybe you can get reviews to help your design go up. It's not like Google where you can link to it and that's going to make it show up higher in Redbubble. So my approach is really the same. And if you want to see in detail my approach, then go to my website, michaelessick.com. Look for the article there about Redbubble. There's a very long, detailed, comprehensive guide on Redbubble and how to sell on Redbubble, how to be seen on Redbubble, how to make sales on Redbubble. So go and read that, and you'll basically have everything that I have on the topic of Redbubble. It's all laid out in that blog post. What do I think of ugly designs on Redbubble? I don't have an opinion on ugly designs on Redbubble or anywhere else, apart from that ugly designs are, I suppose you could say in one sense, they're in the eye of the beholder, but certainly it's, I don't think they matter for me or you, as long as you're not the one producing the ugly designs. It doesn't matter. Okay, hope that helps you, Zahed. Next question. Next question from MapsAreCool1. I've been switching over to doing many designs as all white. That way they look great on any dark or darker shirts. Doing color designs limits the number of shirts they look good on by color. Do you think this is a good strategy? Do you think it's good to do a certain design in both all white for darker shirts and black for lighter colored shirts? That's a very good question. Again, I think that the most important thing in this conversation, in this question, is where is who's the customer and what are they looking for? Who's the customer and what do they expect to see? And second to that is kind of what's the competition around you. So, for example, let's imagine someone looks for Che Guevara t-shirt. Now, you know, and I know, and anyone who's searching for that knows exactly what they're looking for because there's an iconic Che Guevara t-shirt. If you don't know what it looks like, Che Guevara shirt. It looks like this. And in particular, it looks like, well, okay, I'll just hold it there. How many of those t-shirts are red? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of a few. So my point is, when someone searches for a Che Guevara t-shirt, they're almost certainly looking for this exact t-shirt or a very close variation of it. Now, of course, not every search is as specific as that, but if you think about, but that same principle applies. So if I was trying to get sales for a Che Guevara t-shirt, it would be silly for me to design it on pink when everyone's looking for and expecting a red t-shirt. And in the same sense, if you're designing a Halloween t-shirt, it might be weird to have it on bright yellow when everyone's expecting it to be on black. And if you're designing t-shirts for goths, and goths isn't really a term anymore, is it? But for metalheads and stuff, it's probably going to be on a black t-shirt. If you're designing t-shirts for kids, for a kid's princess birthday party, then you should probably make it on a pink t-shirt, for example. So that's my first point. Is the first factor in any question is what's the person looking for, what are they expecting to see, and how can you deliver that for them. So to answer, should you do white and then black or whatever and vary it like that? I don't really do that. I haven't ever really done that. I've typically just done one design and I've made a decision on what background color that looks best on, and then I've kind of stuck with that. And that's kind of been, it simplifies the process as well. It means you don't have to, constantly kind of be worrying about it. You can kind of, it eradicates a lot of questions that you otherwise have to deal with, like, should I use it on this color? Should I put it on this color? I just say, okay, you know what, this design looks best on a navy t-shirt. I think most people are going to appreciate it on a navy t-shirt, so I'm going for that, and then people can choose another color if they like. So I have not typically done the, here's a version of this artwork for a black shirt and here's a version of this artwork on a white shirt, except for in very minor circumstances and situations where I think it might be necessary. So I don't do that as a rule. I don't think it's necessary or that important. Do I think it's good to design do I think it's a good strategy doing limits the number of colors on shirts they look good on? So yeah, basically what I'm saying is, you at a certain point you have to make a decision and say, this design works on this color and it doesn't work on this color, and I'm okay with that. And if someone wants it on a yellow shirt, unfortunately it's not available for them. It's like, on Merch by Amazon, you have to decide, I can't remember what the limit is, but there's a certain limit to the number of colors you can have. So I think the recommended is somewhere between 3 and 5. I typically go for 3. I think the less options you give people, usually the better. And if you're the designer and you have considered the t-shirt as part of your design, then it should be relatively straightforward to say, you know what, this design looks best on this color t-shirt, and I'm ignoring all these other colors on which it doesn't really work that great on. So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I hope that answers your question. Maps are cool. Danielle says, thanks so much. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, Chris Lucky says, which requirements must a niche have for you, and how do you verify those requirements for this niche that you start design shirts for it? That's a very good question, Chris. It's less about requirements. I'm afraid I'm not as organized and as formal as that. I wish I was, but what I typically, there are things that I think about and factor into that, and one of them is a lot of it comes from experience. So that's one thing. I think if you design particular designs for a particular market, or certainly around a particular market or demographic, then after you've done this for a while and you've started to get some sales, you should have a kind of subconscious picture of what works and what doesn't. Even if you don't have that on paper and you can't really define it, you probably have a bit of a feel of, okay, this might work and this probably won't work. And that can be misleading. Sometimes we have ideas that we think are massive and going to be huge hits, and they turn out to be huge flops. And then other times we have designs that we think are stupid and daft, and we just throw them up and they turn out to be bestsellers. So it is a kind of it takes a bit of experience. That's one element. Another thing I would say in my experience is I've just gone for stuff that I like. Like Marie Kondo style. Does it spark joy for you? I think if something is something that you would wear, that you personally have an affinity for, that kind of makes sense for you, then it's probably going to gel well with others as well, especially if you're designing around a niche or a subject or a market that you know in some detail. So I would recommend using those kind of feelers. You can also, of course, look into, what's selling in these markets. Are these markets that sell on platforms? Is there appetite for this design? Is there competition for this design? So, for example, if I had an idea and I went and searched it and saw that there was a lot of competition and the designs were not incredibly different from what I was going to create anyway, then I'll probably leave it alone. But if there's maybe just 2 or 3 designs and they look like they might be selling or something, then that would be a green light to go ahead. So it's all kind of those kind of factors, really, Chris. It's experience. It's stuff that kind of hits a nerve with you that you think might work well, and also just kind of research around the topic and around the markets and the distribution channels that you're going after. Does this feel like and does it look like something that could work? But the final thing to add is that you never know. This isn't an exact science. This is an art, and so what you always must remember is that it's it's the law of averages. You have to throw a lot of stuff out there. You have to then see what sticks, and the majority of what you produce isn't going to sell well, but a small percentage might, and it's that you then focus on and start building more stuff around. So hope that helps you there, Chris. Okay, Jinxicle. Hi, Michael. I was wondering if my Redbubble shop can have designs that have many themes of designs that cater for different people, because for many sites, I saw advice that you needed to know what's your target market. But should I create different shops for different themes of designs then? It's a good question, Jinxicle, and I think it doesn't really matter so much with Redbubble. Because typically with Redbubble, with TeePublic, the majority of your traffic is likely to come from external sources. So that's going to come from Google, or it's going to come from Google Shopping ads or retargeting ads or something like that. Which means that they're not coming from your store. They're not looking at your store and scrolling through all your designs and then picking a design. They're coming probably because they've been brought to a single design in the first place from Google or something like that. So should you create a different shop for every different theme? I think it depends how you define theme. For example, if I have 1,000 designs on various different fruits, are those all different themes? You could get really micro about it and really anal about it. And I would say that that's not necessary. I think in general, until you've really found your feet, it's fine to have a single Redbubble store and you just kind of whack everything up under there. I think once you get a bit of traction and maybe you begin to feel like, you know what, I'm tend to be designing for this market and this demographic and this particular niche, and I think it's time for me to really set up a dedicated store for that, then you can do that within Redbubble. And then you might, start to use some of the, you can link people to your social media, you can do things like that, and hopefully try and build a little bit of a brand or something around that. But I think the main thing to remember is that when you're using free organic traffic sites like Redbubble and TeePublic, then the traffic is going to come from Google. It's not going to come from people scrolling through your store. So you don't really have to worry about people looking at your designs and going, oh, what were all these crazy designs about different subjects? I just want to buy a design about vegan stuff, and they're all different. So I hope that makes sense. I just wouldn't worry about it until you've kind of got things going. And then if you start to find that your designs are selling around a particular niche, then you can maybe change things up then. Okay, Kevin, what do you think is the best thing to do while MBA, Merch by Amazon, is suspended? Gosh, Kevin, that's such a huge question. It really depends on who you are, what you're doing, what stage you're at with your business, all those kind of things. If I can give a general principle, I would say you want to move you want to always, this is kind of a constant answer because it's always going to be a good answer no matter the situation. But you always want to be kind of moving away from sources of income that you don't control towards sources of income that you do control. Now, Merch by Amazon and Redbubble and TeePublic, they all are pretty low down on the control-ometer. You don't have a lot of control. You can be subject to all kinds of complications, algorithm changes, shutdowns, all these kind of things. And you, therefore, the way to think about these sites is really their cash flow plays. You can't really build a long-term, sustainable, and secure business on these platforms because they can change very quickly, and things can get turned upside down, as we've seen. So with that in mind, what you always want to be doing is moving from, I say moving from, but it's not that you drop those platforms. It's just that you use those platforms to help you generate cash flow, to help you generate experience, knowledge of the market, understanding of what sells and what doesn't. And you kind of gravitate slowly and you build up platforms that you can control, whether that's a Shopify store, whether that's maybe some offline licensing channel that gives you more control, whether that's a following of yourself as an artist or as a brand or something like that, or maybe it's a product or a particular kind of product like a webcomic or something like that you create. And whatever it is, you want to be moving away from platforms that don't give you much control to platforms and products and services that you have more control over. And yeah, so I don't know what that is for you. It's going to be different for all of us. It depends on what your strengths are, where you are, where you can offer the most value to people. It might be that you're a great designer, producing very nice aesthetic designs, and you don't really want to fool around with social media, but you do want to just simply create great designs and sell them. And so there you might want to be looking at more like, I would ask the question, what are the more secure channels and distribution channels that I could be building up? And it's not a quick win. This is not about like quick getting cash in quick, because it's never going to be like that. But it's more like asking yourself the question, okay, what stores, what places, what distribution channels exist where I can sell this stuff that isn't as subject to changes and isn't as flaky. I don't mean it in a negative way, but isn't as flaky as like organic driven platforms like Amazon, Redbubble, and others. So I'll leave that one there just because it's a big topic. I hope that kind of gives you a rough picture of what I mean. Michael says, besides apparel, what's the most underestimated POD product? What products are most artists ignoring, in your opinion? That's a great question, Michael. What comes to mind immediately are things like stickers on Redbubble. Of course, many people know about stickers. Many people will poo-poo stickers because they are low price and therefore low royalties. But if you were selling the number one selling sticker on Redbubble, you would be looking at a nice income. So stickers on Redbubble, I think things that are relatively higher price but low competition, like tapestries and stuff like that. Tapestries are relatively big on Redbubble. You don't hear many people talking about them. You don't hear many people diving into them and dissecting them and creating designs for them. And that's something that I would say, recommend people go and read my Redbubble blog post, because I talk about designing for the product there. And if you try and just throw your existing designs up on tapestries, that's not going to make a massive impact. But if you think about tapestries, who's buying these tapestries? How can I make a tapestry design for people who like this thing? And how can I make it the best possible tapestry for that person? Then you'll create designs that are really much more likely to do well. I recently sent out an email as well about Redbubble launching fanny packs and other bags and stuff like that. So if you're not subscribed to my email newsletter, make sure you go and subscribe, michaelessick.com/subscribe, because that's information I don't think anyone else has really talked about yet. Redbubble launches new products. I happen to get wind of a new product launch, and I think fanny packs could be an interesting one for Redbubble. So yeah, I think the products that are going to be trending and popular at any time are going to come and go. Print on demand sites launch new ones all the time. I do think one strategy, if you like, for making sales is to think product first. And what I mean by that is to just empty your head of all ideas about markets and niches and all that stuff, and instead just go on to the top 5 print-on-demand platforms and just look at the products that they lay out and how they lay them out. For example, if we go on tpublic.com, we will see here they have, if I make this a bit bigger so you guys can see it, adult apparel, t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies. So the order that they put this stuff is generally going to correspond to the order in which people buy them, the popularity of the products. So of course, t-shirts are the most popular one. Kids apparel. I mean, who's designing specifically for kids and targeting TeePublic with kids t-shirt designs? I don't know. Is that a good strategy? I'm not sure, but it could be worth exploring, and you can dive in and see, okay, what's the best-selling kids t-shirt on TeePublic? What are the kinds of designs that are popular? Can I create something like that? But just even before we do that, let's just take a step back again and just think about that. This is TeePublic telling you these are the products that we think are most popular. So TeePublic thinks that wall art is the most popular home good product. So you could just go into wall art, have a look around, have a think about what you could create. And the same applies to every possible website, because they're all set up in this way. They're set up to prioritize those things that make the most profit for them or that have the most sales. So for Society 6, wall art, art prints, then it's home decor. So tapestries is number 1 under Society 6's home decors, which tells me they're selling a lot of tapestries. And you can scroll through and think, okay, what's the deal with tapestries? There's looks like one of Vincent's designs there or something. So yeah, you can dive in there and just have a look around. And from time to time, you'll see products that you haven't seen before and that are worth you exploring. Okay. Jinxicle says, thank you. You're welcome, Jinxicle. Fighting Words Designs. Is it worth to use collections in Redbubble, like 2020 election, funny sayings and such? Yes, Fighting Words Designs. I think that is worthwhile because it's just another opportunity to get something ranked on Google, because those collections will have their own page that can be ranked by Google. It's another example it's another place to use your keywords, to use your key phrase, and to get some traction there. Now, the same overriding theme applies, which is, going after 2020 election phrases is going to be very difficult. Everyone's doing it. But for lower competition stuff, it's another way you can take up a bit more real estate on the Google results page, or on, well, it's going to be Google, isn't it? Typically. So hope that helps you. Fighting Words. Yeah, I think it's worthwhile, but it's not going to make a massive impact. But it's a bit like listing your design on every product on Redbubble. Is it going to make a huge difference? Probably not. But once you've done that to 1,000 designs, that's a lot more opportunity you have to make sales. So it's just that kind of strategy of getting the maximum possible exposure you can get. And if a job's worth doing, it's probably worth doing properly and as much as you can, getting everything out there as much as possible. SMH, will it upload after the live? Yes, this video should, all being well, go live. Not go live, it will be uploaded and you can watch it again straight away. Okay, Reza. Hi, Michael. Do you think doing keyword research on Google search engines is enough to find insights in designing t-shirts? Yes, I think that's a great idea, Reza. If you know something about keyword research, Google, SEO, then certainly doing some research on things that people are searching for within Google especially, or just within Google, is a very good idea. I think, there's some useful tools out there, some paid tools like Ahrefs, which I've played around with. I think they're worth playing with. I think you can get a trial of Ahrefs for like $7 for 7 days. And you can go in there and just search t-shirts, just search keyword t-shirts and see what comes up. And you might just find that there's some low competition stuff. People are searching for this, and it's not really, there's not a lot of competition around it. And you could get a design ranking quite easily using TeePublic, using Redbubble, and make some sales on low competition stuff. So yes, absolutely do that. There's lots of different strategies for finding, you know, trending topics and things like that. Um, but certainly, if you've got that as a skill that you can do, that you know something about, then absolutely go ahead and do it. Okay, Kevin. Yes, got it, Michael. I am focusing on my Etsy and Printful POD business for now. Great stuff, Kevin. Etsy seems to be doing great guns at the moment. Seem to be seeing an increase. Not only is it holding steady, but we seem to be making more sales on Etsy now than we have done for a while. So whether that's the seasonal uptick or people are staying at home and buying stuff, I don't know. But yeah, Etsy does seem to be rocking quite good right now. Okay, Along Deroy. Hi, Michael. Should I resubmit a MBA account after it got terminated? Don't know. You could try. It all depends why you got terminated. If you're going to change tack, if you get a new account, I have heard of people getting accounts reinstated. But the fact you got terminated tells me that you were doing something wrong, and I think unless you know what that is, and you're intending to change it, or you have a different strategy, or you've seen the error of your ways, you're going to repent and come and pay penance to the Merch by Amazon gods, then I don't know. I whether Merch tracks IP addresses and stuff like that, and can tell whether you're applying under a, you know, different email address. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just going to leave it there. I don't know. Dom, just on tools, do you think BuzzSumo is worth the high price for finding trending topics? I've never used BuzzSumo. The name rings a bell, but BuzzSumo, find the content that performs best, collaborate with influencers who matter. Okay, so it looks like it's maybe a tool that trending stories and topics and stuff. I've never used it, Dom, so I just really can't comment, but that looks pretty pricey, um, unless you're getting a lot of multi-uses out of it. So, for example, I pay for Ahrefs because it's a keyword research tool, but it's also a kind of Google rankings tool and stuff. It's also a website audit tool. So I use it to help me, when I'm doing articles for my website, for michaelessick.com, but I can also use it to do t-shirt research and stuff like that. So I have like multi-uses for it. It's hard, I think, to justify multiple $100 a month on software for t-shirts unless you're really doing great guns. And if you're doing great guns, you probably don't need it anyway, unless you attribute your success to that in the first place. So yeah, can't really comment on BuzzSumo. Don't really know too much about it, but I do intend to write a blog post or do an email soon about trending topics and some of the best free tools I've used to help me find trending stuff. Stuff like Reddit, stuff like I don't know. There's things like Reddit alerts you can do to help you see when there's particular chatter around a particular topic or something. But yeah, I'll talk about that later. Okay, Raza says thank you. Chris says, I just want to say thank you for all your content and all the content you provide, and also for this new live Q&A. It helps a lot. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think the Q&As are a good idea. I think they're fun. I try and do one a week for the foreseeable, as we're all stuck at home anyway. I think it's a useful thing. If anyone's got suggestions on other things they'd like to see me do, for example, we can do design critiques, we can do idea generation, we can do stuff like that. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to share them. And what we can also do is you can join me live and we can have like a live interview or discussion or something like that. So if you've got ideas for topics or for people you'd like to see me talk to, something like that, then go ahead and share. You can email me as well. I do have as we've got about 10 minutes left, the questions seem to have dried up a bit. I have a couple of questions here that I thought I'd address because they're pretty good ones. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So this one is not real name Sally. I'll read it out and then I'll address this question. So Sally said, if I sell designs, it's only the old ones because they got traffic back when it was easier to get traffic. It's so absurd because my art has improved and so have my ideas, but sales are just continually going down more and more. Again, I'm not selling the new ones like at all. It's really disheartening. Designs that would have been instant hits years ago are now just dying a slow death in my shops. I feel like the main problem is reaching people. I do social media posts. I tried paying for ads on Facebook, but gave up pretty quickly because I couldn't figure out what was working. I have so many ideas for more designs, but I just feel blocked in my head by the thought that nobody's going to buy it anyway, except maybe a few people over the next 2 years. I'm glad I have regular illustration jobs. Otherwise, I couldn't pay my bills anymore. So, just to give a bit of context and backstory on this, this is a t-shirt designer who was selling quite well several years ago on Shirt-A-Day websites. So your T-Furies, your Woots, your QWERTYs, and others like that. So she was doing great guns back then. And as the market has really changed and become more competitive, and really the sales have dried up, she's asking what advice would I give for that. So this is not someone who's sold primarily on merch by Amazon or even necessarily on Redbubble and TeePublic, although she does sell on Redbubble and TeePublic. But she is saying that she's not getting the sales from those channels that she was previously. So what kind of advice can I give? So I had a couple of thoughts on this. One way to illustrate this maybe is to show this Airtable base. So will that make it full screen? Yeah, there we go. So this is my POD site data. So what this is something like 31 different print on demand and associated websites, ranked by monthly traffic, organic traffic, and all of the factors and stuff like that. So this particular artist, she was doing great on kind of pop culture stuff, T-Fury stuff. I wouldn't say infringing, but certainly designs that were based on, some intellectual property, whether that was a TV show or a movie or something like that. And back in 2013, 2014, 2015 was when T-Fury and these sites were really at their peak. And since then, they've really taken a dip. And I think really the market has changed. But what I would say, just kind of one quick thought, is on this chart here, all the sites with a little peach color, those are what I would call Shirt-A-Day sites. So those are sites where they typically offer a design or a couple of designs for 24 hours for a low price, like $10 or $12. And then it changes and the price goes up, and then they replace it with a new design. So every site that has that kind of peach color is one of those sites. So the biggest one in terms of traffic is QWERTY. Down here, shirt.woot is the next most popular. Then you've got T-Fury, Yeti, Ripped, other T's, Shirt Punch, Once Upon a T. And there they are. So there's still quite a few sites out there that still seem to be selling and getting not terrible traffic. Now the traffic's not what it used to be, but these sites are still operational. They still take design submissions from artists, and they still sell stuff every day. Now what I did was a quick calculation, kind of back of a fag packet calculation, to figure out how many sales are these guys making a day and how much money is there in play there. Now this is very rough data, so take it with a pinch of salt, but if we figure that the average e-commerce site converts at about 3%, that would be about the average, then QWERTY is making, I can't remember what I did here. Okay, that's the estimated sales total a month. So basically what I worked out was, based on their traffic, so their monthly traffic, how much money is generated for artists every month. Now, this is going to be different for shirt a day sites because they um, typically you get maybe like $1 or $1.50 a shirt. But I think I used $3 here for my estimate. But for a site like Qwerty, that turned out about $132,000 a month that's to be shared amongst the designers for that month. So that's obviously the best one. But even if we go down to like Once Upon a Tea, which is the one with the lowest traffic on this list, that still has like almost $12,000 a month that it generates for artists estimated. So if you could get a piece of that puzzle, if you wanted to make, I also did a calculation here, if you wanted to make $1,000 a month from Once Upon a Tea, then you would need to get 8% of the 8% of that 12 grand. Is that possible? I think it possibly is, especially for an artist. And I know this artist, not personally, but I know her work and I know the quality of her designs. I think it's possible that she could tap into all these sources. Her artwork would be appropriate for almost all of these sites, and make sales. I think what happens is the problem with these sites is you have to go and submit your artwork to them. So it's not like Redbubble and TeePublic where you submit it once and it stays up forever. You have to go and submit them. They have to accept them, and then if they accept it and sell it, then it goes on sale, and you can make money from it, obviously. But my point here really is these sites are still up, they're still operational, they're still making sales. Why not, instead of maybe focusing on Redbubble and TeePublic and the other organic platforms, go to these platforms that we can see they have, pretty high traffic numbers still. They are driving traffic. They're usually doing remarketing. They're doing Facebook ads. They have email lists where they're hitting every day. So why not go and submit your designs to these? There's at least, I don't know how many there is there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different sites. They all need at least one new design every day. So that's 8 times 30 days a month. What's that? That's, someone who's good at maths can figure that one out. But that's quite a lot of opportunity for you to at least get one of your designs in there. And I know that this t-shirt seller has had success in the past with such sites. I think what we do is, though, we have success with those, and then we just kind of like, well, I don't want to keep submitting all the time, da 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 da. And that's where we perhaps are missing out, because there's opportunity there to submit and to make sales if we would only make the effort to just submit. And obviously doing a bit of research and stuff matters. It matters that you do some research on these sites and figure out what you can sell. But really the key there is just to keep submitting and submit a lot of stuff. And even if you just said, okay, for 30 days I'm going to submit a design a day to each of these sites, or a design to a different site every day for 30 days, and just see what happens at the end of it. And I think you might be surprised at what comes off the back of that. And then maybe you could automate it somehow. Maybe you could hire someone to submit to these sites every day or every month for you. I used to submit to TeeFury so often that, I actually hired someone to submit a big list of designs. Like I said, here's 500 designs, just submit one every day to TeeFury. And I submitted so often that TeeFury emailed me and said, please stop submitting so many designs, because all we get is your designs every day. And they're great, but we can't, you're blocking out other artists. So I say all that just to say that I think these are untapped opportunities for artists. It's simply that the effort required to submit stuff turns people off. And I think that's something that could be useful. Okay. Another suggestion on the back of that question over here from Sally, not real name, is try reaching out to specific individuals or specific groups of people, maybe podcasts or YouTube channels or something like that, anywhere where there's people who are likely to respond well to your stuff. So for example, if you have a design around a certain topic, you go and try and find is there a YouTube channel around that topic that's regularly putting stuff? Will they take a free design or a free t-shirt for a little bit of sponsorship? So that was something that I had happen a few times. I had podcasts and YouTube channels that would wear my design, and all I had to do was send them a free t-shirt and they would wear their design and it would be seen by thousands of people. So that's another thing you can try. And then thirdly, perhaps more long term, try to establish even if it's just one or two distribution channels that you can rely on. So whether that's print on demand, whether that's shirt a day sites, whether that's a person or someone you can partner with to help promote your stuff, um, just something that you can regularly, even if it's just, I send out an email to a list of 50 people and one person buys every week. Even if it's something as small as that, at least that gives you something to build on, some kind of platform to grow from, and then you can kind of at least begin to have some sustainability, and you can begin to have some data, and you can begin to improve it. But if you just kind of keep expecting the designs that were popular 2 or 3 years ago, it's always going to be a case that it's going to be dipping. And if those new designs you're creating are not like the old designs, then I would say you need to try and find where those channels are, and really, find the ideal channel for those designs, and start using those. Okay, I will leave that one there. We have gone for about an hour, so I'm just going to take a few last minute questions here, and then we'll round it up. So, okay, from Jinxicle again. I searched T-shirt and a keyword on Google. Google, Spreadshirt, TeePublic, and Designed by Humans came first, followed by Redbubble. Which platform gave you more sales? Are those three above okay in terms of revenue? So for me, Redbubble would be the first, then TeePublic, probably then Designed by Humans. I don't sell on Spreadshirt at the moment, haven't ever really had much success with them. So I hope that answers that question for you. Jinxicle, Redbubble, TeePublic, and the rest. If you go on my website, I've got a blog post about the best print-on-demand sites. I think it's the one on the homepage right now, so you can go and read that. And if you haven't already, you can pop your email address in on there. You can get a copy of the guide, and you can get access to this Airtable base, so you can dig into the data here, use it for your own purposes, work out your own calculations and stuff. If that's of interest to you, the different kind of t-shirt sites and how you can use them. Okay, Paul, would love to see you pick a niche and walk everyone through your design process when creating a shirt. That's a good one, Paul. I will think about that. Okay, B&A, do you do any designs that are text typography only, and do they sell? Yes. I think it's not really that helpful to think of designs in terms of text typography and graphics. I just think it's not really that useful a distinction, because the biggest distinction is the market and who you're designing for, and the demographic you're designing for, and their motivation. All those things are much more important than, is this a text design or not. But to answer your question, yes, I do have text only designs. Some of my best sellers have been text only designs, and that's because I've been in tune with a particular trend or something that was just happening that turned out to be popular, or it was a phrase or something that became quite popular shortly thereafter, and I was just ahead of the curve. So typically the game is more that kind of thing. It's what do you know about that other people don't know about? How can you get ahead of it? And in those cases, having a text design, especially when there's low competition, they can sell very well. So I hope that helps. Melinda, can you recommend a few print-on-demand sites that you consider excellent for using with Etsy? Yes, Melinda. If you go over to michaelessack.com, Michael, MICHAELESSEK, and you go on the best print-on-demand companies, then you will find this very detailed guide to the best print-on-demand companies to use. It includes a deep dive into Printful, Printify, and Guten. I would personally recommend, as I do in this blog post, using Printful or Printify. They both work with Etsy, and especially Printify tends to have slightly cheaper prices, and yeah, I would recommend those two to you. And there are many other ones you can check out that are listed in that detailed blog post. Okay, thank you, Melinda, for that question. And Jinxicle says, thank you, Michael. Will do so. Wonderful. So I think we will probably round it up there. If you have any last minute questions, now is the time. Otherwise, I think we'll finish it up there. Melinda says, beautiful. Thank you. Wishing you health and happiness during this crazy time. Thank you, Melinda. That is very kind. B&A, thank you. Thank you for your time. You're welcome. This has been fun again today, so I think we'll do another one next week. As usual, you can subscribe to me on all the places. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please like, follow, and all that kind of stuff. It just means that I can get out in front of you and you'll be alerted when I go, so you can ask your question before anyone else and hopefully get a quicker answer. The best thing to do, if you haven't already, is to subscribe to my email newsletter, which is where I send out exclusive tips and news and roundups of what's been happening in the world of print on demand. So please go to michaelessick.com/subscribe if you're not already on my newsletter. And yeah, this replay will be available shortly after. I will send out the replay via email so you won't be able to miss it. But yeah, I'll catch up with all you guys next week. If you have any questions, you can email me. Otherwise, we'll do the same thing next week. And yeah, I wish I had something else to say, but I don't. So I will leave it there. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Stay healthy, stay happy, and stay creative. Okay. Talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye-bye.